We're here with Andrew Bell, Chairman of Regency Mines, an AIM-listed mineral exploration and development company with a focus on nickel and copper in Western Australia, Queensland and Papua New Guinea. Andrew, give us some idea of what your portfolio consists of now for Regency.
You've summarised it quite well, actually, Sandra. The biggest asset we have probably in terms of potential value and contained metal, almost surely, is the Papua New Guinea lateritic nickel cobalt deposit, because that has the potential to host $200 or $300 billion worth of contained metal. And that's quite large, even by the standards of lateritic deposits. What we also have is, of course, the exploration properties in Western Australia that are for nickel stroke gold, and the copper gold exploration project in Queensland. But those are, I stress, at the exploration stage, although the Queensland one is an old mining camp that the first book about it was written summarising all the mines there in 1909 or 1910.
Some history.
Yeah, and nothing really has been done since. People have scratched the surface, and we've reinterpreted the whole area with geophysics, and we're looking at it and doing some serious exploration. There's a lot of potential there. But if you said that Miningmaven was the biggest asset, you'd be right. And the other thing that is very significant to us is, of course, our shareholding in Red Rock Resources PLC, a company that's done very well recently and that is in gold and has some investment interests.
Okay, and I think I've got to mention in the intro, you've made another addition to the portfolio, including coal.
Yes, I mean, base metals is important to us. When we started, we were planning to be really in nickel and copper. We've got more nickel assets now than we have copper, because it's really very hard to find good quality copper assets. And so that side of the business hasn't grown to the extent we expected. But what we thought we would do, and that was an area that is very attractive, is invest in coal. Well, of course, coal is one of the world's three most traded commodities. If you look at the three big dry bulk commodities, they're iron ore, coal and grain.
Okay, so we'll get a bit more to coal a little bit later, but if you could give us some idea of what's the value of Miningmaven to Regency Mines.
We don't know what the value is because the exploration has only just seriously started. But from the 1960s, 70s on, there's been episodes of exploration, initially just auger drilling, which means hand drills and pits. So we knew there was nickel there. Now the thing about lateritic nickel is that 2/3 maybe of the world's nickel is in laterites, and that really means in clays of different kinds. Saprolites, limonites, and so on,
so you feel
which
quite
are decayed rocks. And so they're near surface, because they're where the rock is gradually turning into clay, and as it does so, a lot of the things leach out, and the nickel actually concentrates. And so where there are lateritic deposits, and 2/3 of them, in turn, are in the Pacific, in the sort of island arcs there, in New Caledonia, in Papua New Guinea, in Indonesia, in the Philippines. That's where the future world production of nickel is going to be.
This is why you're very confident
Yeah,
on this.
it's become more and more difficult to find sulfide deposits. And do you know why there isn't more produced from laterites today? There's less than there should be. It's because as these deposits are trapped in clays, separating the nickel from the clay is difficult, because clay sticks to things. And the whole secret of laterites is finding some way to liberate, through leaching, the nickel from the clay.
So you've just entered into a joint venture with Direct Nickel. Can you tell us what this means for the Miningmaven project, and what it means for Regency, and what sort of technology Direct Nickel will bring?
Yes, I mean, just as in Regency's investment, Red Rock, we saw that the key thing to, the key missing element in the iron ore and manganese exploration there was infrastructure. And so we had to find people with the credibility and financial backing as partners to fill in that gap. So in Regency, with nickel, the key element that is missing is the processing, the liberation of the nickel from the clay. And so we wanted to find a partner that had the best possible expertise in that. And that means technology, because there have been one or two things that were meant to be the global solution for that actually are failed solutions. But we did our research and we came up with what we thought was the best technology solution that is actually a game changer for the nickel industry.
Did you look at a lot of different companies, a lot of different areas?
We did, and different technologies. And we satisfied ourselves that this is the best. And it's going to totally revolutionize the laterite nickel industry, because instead of being high cost, it's going to become low cost. Let me explain, because I can do it very simply. If you look at the existing technologies like high pressure acid leach, which is used for laterites, that really blasts the clay with very high pressure, with very high temperature, with very high acidity. It has a consumption of maybe 800 kilos or 1,000 kilos of acid for a ton. And you need to have special materials to construct the vessels in which this is carried out. You have to have autoclaves, and the result of this is that your entry cost is about $2 billion.
Okay.
And that means you can't have a small
plant. A little bit big for Regency.
It's on a big scale, yep, and it's expensive to run. Heap leaching, which is just making a big heap and letting the thing leach, that has problems, because as you put acid onto a heap, first, it's inefficient, it takes time, and as the acid works on the leach, gradually the clay goes gah. Its internal structure disappears, and it becomes really clay, which means the acid can't work on the nickel to liberate it anymore. So that the consumption of acid there is also very high. And the problem with both those solutions is then, of course, disposal of your wastes. Now, the thing about the direct nickel solution, and these are our partners, is that there's 96% recycling. So you start with a more expensive reagent, but since you're recycling it, your consumption per ton goes down from 800 to 1,000 kilos to about 40 or 50. That's highly significant. And there are some other technical advantages as well. For example, this is the only process that can treat both limonites and saprolites, which really are clays at different stages of dissolution and therefore different chemical and metallic compositions. But that's the most significant difference. And because it's atmospheric pressure, you need slightly elevated temperature, but not very high. But because it's atmospheric pressure, you don't need the whole apparatus of autoclaves. You don't need special materials. And therefore, you can size your plants. You can develop them in a modular way, which means your entry cost, instead of being $2 billion plus, with huge cost overruns usually, becomes, say, $400 million.
No, with any new technology, are there any risks associated with this, or are you fully confident?
Well, is it a new technology? That's the question, because it was actually a process developed in America to treat waste products from the steel industry. Then Falconbridge, the leading nickel company, saw the potential application to nickel, started doing work, nickel price dropped, they lost interest. But the then technology officer of Falconbridge is still involved as a consultant to the project. Now CSIRO, the premier government science agency in Australia, has invested in the summer, and they're jointly with Direct Nickel, they're going to put up a pilot plant, because this has been tested and so far everything works perfectly.
So how far away are we before you think Regency could really benefit from this
technology?
Well,
we've invested in Direct Nickel at the same price as CSIRO. We're going to be the second biggest shareholder, and we have a 50-50 joint venture with Direct Nickel on our Mambari project. Okay. We're starting the next phase, which is £2 million exploration in January. And so we're going to develop a resource there. And I think this thing really has legs, and we have a two-way play.
So you think Regency Mines will directly benefit in what time frame?
Well, Direct Nickel is planning, on the conclusion of its test work, to list possibly in Hong Kong in the course of 2011. People are talking about raising 200 million, putting a value of 700 million or so on it. We'll see.
So what you're sort of saying is
we'll have a really good investment in a short time.
That's right. Okay, so if we have a look at, you've moved in continuing with gold and base metals with your project work there. Can you give us an outline of your licenses there in Australia?
It's actually, it's really nickel and copper, so I'd say base metals. Our gold, we don't really have gold exposure. Maybe we do, but if we find it, it'll be accidental. But apart from, I've mentioned to you, we have these other projects in Australia. We're exploring them. There could be very interesting news from that. We've got some good indications. We've just completed some geophysics on them, airborne. We'll see. But the most important recent move we've made has been a diversification into coal.
Yes, and I wanted to say, you know, what does this mean for Regency Mines? Why did you make an investment in Oracle coalfields?
Well, first of all, Pakistan has a critical energy shortage. Secondly, they have one of the biggest coal fields in the world. Low-grade coal, so you can't easily export it. But it's still influenced by internationally traded prices, because it means that Pakistan doesn't need to import coal. So there's import substitution. And also one of the products that it's used to make, which is cement, because they have a deal with Lucky Cement, penciled in, and that's the biggest cement producer in Pakistan. Lucky exports cement to the Middle East, the Gulf. So we are part of the internationally traded pricing structure for coal. And the company there got listed on Plus, probably a mistake. And what I think is remarkable is how well the management has done in getting to the stage of having a resource, a measured resource, and a proven reserve, and so how do you with no money.
Yeah, no, and so, okay, so with money, with backing, how do you see your investment with Regency and the future of Oracle?
We're going to help them get onto AIM, and then we're going to help them raise money to put up a plant, and they have already a deal in principle with the biggest utility company in Pakistan, which is Gulf controlled and relatively stable. And we think that if they can make this work, and the whole Pakistani government is putting its shoulder behind this and very keen on it, if this works, then it'll be the opening up of a big new industry, and this will be a big player. So I think it's a fantastic opportunity, becoming a big and potentially the largest shareholder in Oracle.
Okay, Regency is a shareholder with a number of listed companies. How do you see managing that portfolio of investments going forward?
It's not necessarily a portfolio, it's a way to finance mining interests. This is an old pattern in the mining industry. If you look at Anglo and Consgold, they used to have their stakes in different individual gold mines, each of which was quoted separately. You can do that because if in the mining industry you're a price taker, not a price maker, so you're not competing with yourself in any way. You can have different listed interests and still be influencing them, acting as a central banker, secretary, whatever else is needed.
You must be pleased then with Regency's stake in Red Rock Resources.
I'm very pleased.
So with the news flow over the next 6 months, what can we expect from Regency Mines?
The unexpected.
Thank you, Andrew. So let's expect the unexpected with Regency Mines.